All right,
Go Warriors.
We're gonna start right there. It's Joe from Rise Against here on 107.7 The Bone with Chasta, baby Huey, backstage at Aftershock. We were just talking about adulting and sunglasses and contacts and all of the things, but it does bring up an interesting point when, like, you're on the road all the time. Like, you live on the road.
Absolutely.
It's funny because, sorry, I have to take these off because I can't even see. Yesterday, we were out here for the first day, the Slayer Day, and I was thinking about it. I was like, God, there's so much energy that like comes at you at a festival like this.
Yeah.
And then I was like falling asleep. I thought, like, bands like you guys, like this is what you live in. This is your normal.
Yeah.
So let's flip that. When you go home, how weird is it to not have all of this coming at you all the time?
It's crazy because we have children, right? I have 3 kids.
Right, sure.
And I'm fully submerged in like driving them to sports.
Yeah.
And like
Daddy mode.
doing that. So like, and I'm really quiet when I'm not in this element.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my parents kind of freak out when they're like, you're in Rise Against. Like, that's crazy. So yeah, there's definitely like a flip of the switch, and then I go into like normal quiet guy mode.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, it's probably healthy. Like, my favorite artist of all time is Janis Joplin.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
as wild as she was on stage, and when she was drunk off stage too, but that's a whole nother Oprah. She did sort of have to have like an alter ego to get into that headspace. Would you say like it's that for you? You have to get in a certain like frame of mind?
Yeah, I guess I never thought of it that way. I grew up so submerged in my little skateboard circle of friends and going to punk shows with the same group.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we all got older and we all have these these separate lives. Like one of my best friends who I grew up, playing in bands with or whatever, he's an ER doctor.
Wow.
But he still sings in his punk band.
Yeah.
So he leads like this double life.
In Chicago?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like the SNL skit.
It is.
Oh yeah.
Right?
100%. So there's a lot of my friends that like they did that. They went like kind of professional career, and then they still kind of go to see, I don't know, whatever punk band's coming through or Riot Fest, or they
MXPX. I'm just thinking like
yeah, absolutely.
That's a doctor you want on your side.
Hell yeah.
They can survive in a pit at that show,
Well,
and they're my doctor.
Or No Effects.
Yes,
which could
you
talk
were
about.
just at
Oh
the
my God.
The last
That was
show, last
everything.
weekend.
Yeah. So it was very surreal and sad, and it was a very loving environment because I was 17 when my old band got on Fat Records. So I've known Mike since I was that young.
Okay.
And I mean, I grew up idolizing him, his bass playing, the way he handled his record label and his band. And it's crazy. I know no one believes that they're really broken up, but I feel like I know him.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, like, see, everyone's like,
I feel it's real. Yeah.
Because it's 41 year
Yeah,
roughly for
41.
the band, and so I mean, I think it's for them. They're calling it a day, but I saw them at the Punk and Drublick last year at the Cow Palace.
Yeah.
Amazing,
Oh, right.
Dude, that was so incredible just to see them. So that was my last time to see them, but seeing all the social media stuff last weekend. One, that stage.
How did that stage stay up?
Yeah, like how many people
So the
were on
fire
stage?
marshal came in,
they
and
did.
they were clicking to count people as they were going on stage, and they had to have the people that were agreed to play with them at the last song.
Yeah.
They had to make sure those people were on stage.
Okay.
So like we were all up there, and then everyone else, if they didn't make the cut, they had to like go off side stage.
Well, yeah, that's a major
Yeah,
safety
absolutely.
issue.
Wait, what was the last? What's the last song? Was it
The last song? The Decline.
Yeah, it was the Decline. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because it was like an all-star jam. Because I mean,
really
I saw Mike and Tom from MXPX up there. I saw Fletcher smashing Mike's bass.
And my bass.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Oh God.
So wait,
Yeah.
what was
was that
Fletcher?
planned?
No.
No.
Fletcher plans nothing.
I had a feeling.
So what happened? He just grabbed it.
So it's funny because he's Fletcher, so he does shit or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was kind of looking at me at the end, and he goes, "Give me your bass," and I was like, and I thought he was messing with me. I thought he was just joking, and he looked at me dead serious. He goes, "I'm gonna take it either way," and I was like,
and he's like 6'6",
You don't say
right?
no to Fletcher.
I'm like, no, you don't say no
Wow.
to Fletcher. And then the next day, he sobered up and was like, "I'm sorry, dude." he apologized to everyone.
Oh, so he apologized to Mike. And,
yeah,
I think also was it
Jay
Bad,
Bentley,
Bad Religion.
Yeah.
He grabbed his bass too.
But you give him grace in that moment, right?
Well, and he goes, I'm sorry. He's like, they have to go out with a bang. I'm like, they do. You don't. You're not in no effects.
Pennywise is still going.
Yeah,
Come on.
totally.
You need to calm down, bro.
Oh my God!
But I would have. I don't know what I was thinking. I would expect no different from him though.
Yeah.
Like that's what he should be doing.
I was trying to think. It was like an all-star because I think it was Sum 41 was up there.
Yeah, Chris from Foo Fighters.
Yeah, Chris Shiflett.
We just interviewed Chris a couple weeks ago. It was cool to see. He was the first person when I opened Instagram.
Him and his brother. Scott,
him and his brother were there, and I was like, "Whoa! Look at everyone." It was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was such a great family reunion.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was it kind of came with the territory. Fletcher, he's like Godzilla, right? You don't get in his way.
No matter the bass cost.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Exactly.
Well, for you, so I know we're talking about NoFX and legendary, iconic, influential band is them, but for you guys, I'll give you your flowers right now. You too, Rise Against, arguably one of the most important bands I would think in the last 20 years.
Oh, thank you.
So many ways, politically, just activism, just all the importance socially, all that stuff. And you guys are one of the biggest punk bands of all time. What does that mean for you? I mean, let's dig deep in all to that. But first off, what does it mean for you to be one of the biggest punk bands of all time? I
mean, I guess I don't think of it that way because I'm still like the 16-year-old kid who wants to go see Bad Religion play. You know, so like. Yeah. I'm very grateful. I never want to take that for granted. It all comes from the heart. So we just do what we do, and we're so lucky to have such a long career, and that our lyrics resonate with people. Yeah. Like we're just lucky to have that. Yeah.
So off that though, being in punk rock, I'm wearing a Green Day shirt. Green Day's my all-time favorite band. Being from the Bay Area where they're from, I remember back in 94, 95, people were calling them sellouts, and which I never understood. It's like, no, I want my favorite band to be successful and keep making music long term. Like I want them to keep going and focus on their art. For you guys, coming from that punk rock background, the scene, was it tough though, moving on up to like a major label, mainstream success? How did you deal with that as a punk band?
I think it was scary at the time because you don't know. You hear the horror stories, right? A band signs to a major label, they get dropped because they don't perform well.
Yeah.
And I think we maintained complete creative control when we signed. So we actually took less money for creative control. And
good for you.
Yeah, like because we were like.
Which doesn't surprise me at all with your band. I mean, that makes that tracks. That it's on brand.
Yeah, like it's important because the band's important to us. It wasn't about a payday. It was about we genuinely wanted to get our music out to as many people as we could. Everyone says that, but I feel like some bands mean it, some bands don't. Right? They want the payday. And it worked out. And there was a 3-month period, right? So we had Give It All released, and then. I'm trying to remember. I think we do Life Less Frightening second. That kind of didn't hit, right? So like the label was getting kind of bummed.
Okay.
And then they released Swing Life Away, and then it just kind of blew up.
Yeah.
It was funny because in that window, Fat Mike texts me. He's like, "Hey, you're probably gonna get dropped from the major label. So if you could come back to Fat, I'll give you this much money. You guys can buy your
houses
and then stay on the label."
Wow! How cool to have a plan B.
Yeah, totally.
And with Fat Mike, I mean that's great.
Well, and that's testament to like how good of a person he is. He really comes at it from like heart of gold.
Well, I mean, perfect segue because we think that about you guys and your band. Let's talk a little bit about the mission. The mission of Rise Against, because it's brave to do what you do, right? And to use your music to make a statement, to make change, and to talk to people. Talk about that. Do you guys have those conversations? Like, what is the goal here? What do we want to get across? What's the focus?
I feel like we've never had specific discussions about lyrical content. It's always just been we're like-minded people. So Tim will write lyrics, and we're like, well, that makes of course
that
makes
sense.
Agree. Because it's stuff that we're all kind of dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But I think that the key is to not force feed anything to anybody, right? Like, so we just put it out there and let people make up their own minds.
I love that.
because I hated growing up. I didn't want anyone telling me how to think or what to do or like it's like F that. So we would never do that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, that's always been our not our goal, but that's always been our goal. Is to just present facts.
Yeah. I love that. One time I was watching an interview and Tim talked about the idea of punk. Like back in the day, punk was brought up as like that was a derogatory thing. Like because it was not accepted. It wasn't meant to be on the radio. And then all of a sudden it was like, F yeah, that's exactly what we're going for, right? Like that's what we're about.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like punk started as a reaction to to mainstream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, from our perspective, it's like, what's wrong with infiltrating that mainstream to inspire a bigger change?
That's it.
So
well,
and it's like, luckily we're on a platform where people are actually listening to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It worked that way, and because everyone's like, oh, you signed to a major label, doesn't that kind of negate that ethos? I'm like, well, no.
I don't understand that kind of thinking, honestly. Like, what's bigger and gets our message out and influences more people and has more conversations with more people about what matters and what's right. What's wrong with that? Like, use the system to get to our people.
Support that.
Right?
I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, like I said,
I agree.
Green Day and other bands, Rancid, all these bands, I'm all for, like, I want them to succeed. I don't want a band to go away after a couple years because they couldn't survive. Like, anyway, a band that I like and has the right message, I want them to be able to keep going and thriving.
Absolutely.
And so I've never been one to like get mad, jealous of a band's success. So, like, I'm all for it. Keep supporting that. And one, it keeps punk rock alive.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm with you. Like, as a 90s kid growing up and like discovering Green Day, but then with that open up to, what were they influenced by? And going back to like the 70s and 80s, Black Flag, Misfits, all that stuff. Like, Green Day was my gateway to
everything
what
else.
Is this term punk rock?
Right.
What is that genre? And then like it just I want to support it all and
you have to start.
It.
You have to start somewhere.
Yes.
And those bands in the '90s that were blowing up, like Nirvana and Green Day and The Offspring, it's like they provided that for the youth at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny because I saw Green Day in Detroit, out of all places, on this last tour.
Yeah, the Saviors tour.
We were gone when they played Chicago, so I wanted to, I'm friends with Rancid. I wanted to go hang out. And I was talking to Trey, and like, they had such a Chicago connection because of Lookout Records, and we had Screeching Weasel from Chicago, and they were buds.
Yep.
So I remember Green Day playing, in front of 200 people and staying on my friend's floor. And they were just the East Bay punks, you know. But they always sounded just a cut above everyone else. They were so good even back then.
Yeah. So what was your thought on being from the Midwest, of like Lookout Records, the East Bay punk scene, the Gilman scene? Like, what was your thoughts? Like, I mean, besides Green Day, Operation Ivy, Rancid, Crim Shrine, all those bands. Like, for you, like, what was your thought of like what was going on? Like, to me, I'm like, it's just cool. That was in my backyard.
That was your home.
Cool. That's my home. Like, that's my home sound. Like, when I put on those albums, it takes me back as a kid.
Sure.
Grimple, like that's
I saw Grimple.
What? You
saw Grimple?
Oh!
They played a club called Too Far West Cafe.
Yeah.
Because I love that record. That had a red cover.
Yeah, the red with the spike, like Spike It Baby.
Yeah. So again, East Bay, they were like, all those bands were like superheroes to me because of Screeching Weasel. Yes. And then I started buying like, I'm trying to think, I'm drawing a blank. Operation Ivy, obviously, all the bands on Lookout, but even going back to like Sweet Baby,
15,
obviously 15, and like my old band, we ended up being label mates with 15 with Hopeless Records, but they were really saying something.
Yeah,
their lyrics were amazing and groundbreaking, and so then that kind of like, that's how I kind of made friends with AFI and Screw 32. And to this day, AFI are still like some of my best friends.
Wow.
So like, but they used to live in a frat house in Berkeley.
Yeah, because Davey went to Cal.
Yeah.
They came down. Was it Eureka or Ukiah? Yeah,
Ukiah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So
crazy.
Yeah, but of that era, like AFI, we still hold it dear to our hearts.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like the holidays, if you have like a holiday party, is that like who's coming to it? Like
100%.
I love it. That's so rad. We want an invite to that one.
Totally.
Actually, I just thought of it. I mean, rumor is Vans Warped Tour is supposed to be coming back next year.
I've been hearing that.
Okay,
I don't know for sure.
Yes, I mean, there's
Lift your sunglasses. I want to see. I'm gonna try to bust him.
I know nothing.
I know nothing.
But what did like Vans Warped Tour mean to you, growing as a punk?
I was at the first one.
Yeah.
It was huge. It was such a because it was the first kind of like foray into like this major festival with skateboarding, which I grew up skateboarding, and my favorite bands. The first Warped Tour I think is No Use for a Name, and Civ played, and Seaweed, and No Doubt was on it.
Yeah.
It was great because it kind of like it was like worlds collide of all the subgenres of punk rock. It was all those bands like. So it was great.
It was the punk rock circus.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to put it, actually.
It's the way I always looked at it. We used to cover it. We were so sad when it went away.
Yeah.
But the resurgence is...
Fingers crossed.
I know.
I feel like, did we just become best friends?
We did.
So what's next for you guys? I know you're starting a tour now.
So
what's next for Rise Against?
We are about to start like a 6-week U.S. tour.
Okay.
It's kind of like just a smaller club
that's
tour.
Kind of yeah.
Just to kind of like say, hey, we're here, and next year we'll have new music out.
Okay.
So we kind of wanted to like get things going.
This is your soft launch for next year?
100. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, soft launch.
And we have LS Dunes with us.
Yeah.
And Spiritual Cramp from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then I think we have Cloud Nothings on some shows, and Microwave. And just probably, I think there's another band I'm missing.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That's a lot to remember.
So and we basically circle the country.
Cool.
And then that's our year, the rest of the year, basically.
Okay.
Next year, you'll see a lot more of us.
Well, when you come to the Bay, you got to come into the studio. We'll have some fun.
Yeah,
We'd love that.
We'll have a listening party. Just put on Lookout Records.
Absolutely,
bands.
yeah.
Just geek out. Old compilations.
Dude, that'd be so fun. You'd be living your best life.
Oh, totally.
I mean, that's
I'll
where
tell
he grew
Billy,
up.
come hang out.
Exactly, yes.
I was part of this collective called Underdog Records. It was a record label, but every week they had weekly meetings. Anyone could go and just take part in it. Every East Bay band stayed at Underdog Records. So there was a lot of friendships made because of.
It sounds like Gilman used to have weekly meetings and
yeah,
stuff.
totally.
It's like
They followed that that whole like idea for sure.
I can relate because 20, 25 years ago when I was coming out of high school and college, I was going to a lot of underground punk shows in Oakland, Berkeley, Richmond, San Francisco. So just hearing you talk about like Chicago, I mean, I could totally relate. Just takes me back to a really special time. Just the innocence, but just all these bands DIY supporting each other, playing abandoned warehouses or buildings in West Oakland. Like,
I'm so jealous I missed out on that. I'm from Southern Oklahoma. Not much happened like that.
But no, it's just like hearing you talk about
cool.
punk rock and the underground punk scene that's near and dear. Just last weekend, a friend of mine, they had a memorial show. Joe Frankie of Fracas, legendary punk band. Davey Havoc sang on one of their songs back in the day. But at that show, it was in San Francisco. Just so many old punk bands were there hanging out. So it took me back to like 20 plus years ago when I was in college. So
that's cool.
So no, thank you for just keeping punk rock alive.
Oh, thank you.
We're going to plan something when you come into town.
Yeah.
All right, we've got one more question for you. We know you're a busy man. This is a question we ask everyone, and it's from the movie Almost Famous from a minute ago. And the question in the last frame of the movie is, what do you love about music?
Oh, wow. I mean, I love that music is my kind of only form of self-expression, like at least playing it. And I also love that, so listening to it's just an outlet, it's a release. Going to see a band playing music, it's just a release. I would go insane if I didn't have music in my life.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Cheers to that one.
Cheers. Microphone cheers.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you.